Most gardeners get biochar wrong before they even make it. They either burn wood to ash and call it biochar, which destroys the carbon structure completely, or they build complicated barrel systems they never use again. The result is wasted material, wasted time, and sometimes soil that performs worse because raw, uncharged char was dumped straight into the beds. Biochar is powerful, but only if you make it properly and use it correctly. I've tested this in open ground gardens, raised beds, and even integrated it into hydroponic media blends. When it's done right, soil structure improves, moisture retention increases, and nutrient stability becomes noticeably better. When it's done wrong, plants stall. If you care about building soil that improves every season instead of resetting every year, subscribe now. This is about systems that last, not trends. Let's get straight into the simplest way to make high-quality biochar without a barrel or drum. You don't need equipment, you need control over oxygen. The entire point of making biochar is controlled burning with limited oxygen. If you burn wood openly until it turns white and powdery, that's ash. Ash has minerals, but it has almost no stable carbon structure left. Biochar is black, lightweight, and porous. It should hold its shape when crushed, not smear like soot. The easiest method I've used consistently is the open pit method, sometimes called a trench burn. You dig a shallow pit in the ground about 1 to 2 feet deep and 2 to 3 feet wide, depending on how much material you have. The pit itself becomes your oxygen regulator. I start with dry woody material. Small branches, pruned fruit tree limbs, untreated scrap wood. Thickness matters. Pieces around finger to wrist size work best. If they're too thin, they burn to ash quickly. Too thick, and they don't char evenly. The key is how you layer the fire. You don't throw everything in at once. That's where most people mess up. I start a small fire at the bottom of the pit using thin sticks. Once that base layer is burning hot, I add a layer of thicker material. As that layer begins to flame and blacken, I add another layer on top. Each new layer limits oxygen to the layer beneath it. That's what creates char instead of ash. You're essentially smothering the lower wood with heat and limited air. You'll notice the bottom pieces turn black but maintain structure. That's what you want. If you see them turning grey and powdery, you waited too long or allowed too much airflow. Timing matters more than temperature. You don't need thermometers for this method, you need attention. When the pit fills close to the top and most material is blackened but still glowing, that's your moment to stop the burn. I extinguish the fire with water thoroughly, not a light sprinkle. I soak it completely. You must stop the combustion, or it will continue internally and turn your char into ash. After cooling, what you should have is lightweight, black chunks that snap cleanly. If you squeeze them and they crumble into black granules without turning grey, you did it right. Crushing and sizing makes a big difference in performance. Large chunks don't integrate well into soil. I crush biochar to about pea-size pieces or smaller. You don't want dust, but you don't want fist-sized chunks either. I use a metal tamper or even drive over it inside a durable bag. In raised beds, I aim for particles roughly 1/4 inch or smaller so they distribute evenly. The reason size matters is surface area. The more surface area, the more microbial habitat and nutrient absorption capacity. Never put raw biochar straight into your beds. This is the mistake that causes people to think biochar doesn't work, you know. Fresh biochar is like a sponge. If you mix it directly into soil, it will absorb available nutrients temporarily. And well, plants can show nitrogen deficiency. You must charge it first. That means saturating it with nutrients before application. The easiest way is to mix crushed biochar into compost at about 10 to 20% by volume and let it sit for at least 2 weeks. If I'm in a hurry, I soak biochar in diluted compost tea or liquid fertilizer for several days before incorporating it. In hydroponic settings, I've soaked biochar in diluted nutrient solution at around 1.5 EC, then rinsed lightly before blending into media. Charging transforms biochar from a nutrient thief into a nutrient reservoir. Application rates should be realistic, not excessive. More is not better. In raised beds, I incorporate biochar at about 5 to 10% of total soil volume. For a standard 4x8 bed with 12 inches of soil depth, that's roughly 1 to 2 cubic feet of charged biochar mixed thoroughly into the top 6 to 8 inches. In open ground gardens, I apply about 1 gallon of crushed charged biochar per 10 square feet and mix it in well. You won't see dramatic changes overnight. Biochar is long-term infrastructure. In my experience, noticeable improvements in moisture retention and plant resilience show up more clearly in the second season. So biochar works differently in raised beds versus open soil. Raised beds, benefit more quickly because the soil volume is contained. I've seen improved drainage in heavy compost-based mixes and, better water retention in sandy blends. In native clay soil, biochar helps with aggregation, but the results do take a bit longer. You still need organic matter, though. Biochar is not a substitute for compost. It's more of a stabilizer, really. In hydroponic experiments, I've blended small percentages of finely crushed pre-charged biochar into cocoa coir mixes. It improves buffering capacity slightly, but honestly, it's not essential. Soil systems benefit far more than pure hydro setups. So what biochar actually does over time is, pretty interesting. Biochar provides habitat for beneficial microbes. Its porous structure holds moisture and nutrients, which really helps reduce leaching. In sandy soils, I have noticed, less frequent irrigation needs after incorporating biochar at moderate rates. It also stabilizes nutrients like potassium and ammonium, preventing them from washing away quickly. That's especially useful in regions with heavy rainfall. But just to be clear, it doesn't replace fertility. You still need compost, cover crops, and balanced feeding. There's some common advice out there that sounds good but doesn't really hold up. Some people claim biochar fixes everything from poor yields to pest problems. That's honestly a bit exaggerated. Biochar improves soil structure and nutrient retention, sure, but it does not magically correct severe nutrient imbalances or eliminate pests. Another mistake is using soft, partially burned material that still contains tar. Proper biochar should be fully carbonized. If it smells strongly smoky and leaves an oily residue, it wasn't burned cleanly. Also, don't make biochar from treated lumber, painted wood, or anything contaminated. Only clean, untreated biomass belongs in your soil. The simplest method is often the most sustainable. Barrels and retorts are useful for large-scale production, but most backyard gardeners don't need that complexity. A simple pit method produces excellent results with minimal cost. I've used this approach repeatedly after seasonal pruning. Instead of hauling branches away, I convert them into long-term soil structure. It really closes a loop in the garden. Waste wood becomes carbon storage. Carbon storage becomes microbial habitat. Microbial habitat improves crop resilience. That's practical soil building. If you apply this method carefully, controlled layering, proper extinguishing, thorough crushing, and proper charging, you'll create high-quality biochar without expensive equipment. And if you integrate it thoughtfully into your beds, you'll build soil that performs better year after year instead of declining. If this kind of practical, field-tested approach to soil building helps you grow better food, subscribe to the channel and share this video with another gardener who's, maybe overcomplicating biochar. The goal isn't fancy equipment, it's stronger soil and better harvests through smart, repeatable systems.